Hello and welcome to Bold Women Lawyers Spotlight. Today, the spotlight's actually on me because I will be talking about adding a practice area or changing your practice area entirely in your solo practice or your small firm practice. Let's talk about why this has even come up. Many people know that when I was in practice for many years, I did all personal injury and medical malpractice cases. But the last 16 years that I was in active practice, I changed that completely. I set up my own solo law firm and I decided I really was ready for a change. I felt like if I had to take one more deposition or answer one more interrogatory, I would tear my hair out. Now, listen, I have plenty of friends. They are great trial lawyers. They thrive on it and they love it. And that's what they do. And I love them for it. But that was not me. I loved it for many years, but I got to the point where I needed to change. So I had to figure out how I was going to do that and how I would even decide what other area of practice to get into. So I want to give you a few tips. If this is something that you're thinking about, maybe adding another practice area, or like me, you may feel like you want to entirely change your practice area. The first thing you want to think about is this. Is the area that you think you want to get into, is it a good fit for you and for your business? Now, if you're a solo practitioner like I was, you need to figure out, is this a good fit for me? And I'll give you an example of what was not a good fit. But if you are in a larger firm or you have a solo practice, but you're thinking about bringing on another attorney to handle a new practice area, you have to figure out, is that a good fit for the business overall? Is the new practice area going to be complementary? Will there be any type of conflicts? So you want to start there. Now, let me give you an example of what not to do. And this is from my own experience. I really wanted to make a change, a big change in the areas that I was practicing in. And someone had suggested to me that, trust in estates and Medicaid planning, that's a pretty hot area. You really should look at that and get into that. And I just jumped in. I was like, oh, that sounds great. I think I can do that. And then I did the research. Should have done the research first because I started taking courses and I was all in on that. And then I realized how much tax law and tax issues were involved. And I'm going to tell you, I hate taxes. I hated tax law. I couldn't have run screaming away faster. When I finally, the light bulb went off and I said to myself, what are you doing? You're, thinking about putting yourself in an area of practice, doing things you don't want to do. So, first thing you want to make sure is that you research whatever the area is, if you're the one who's going to be doing the work, and make sure that it really is a good fit for you. The second thing you have to think about, of course, is who's going to do the work. Now, as I said, maybe you're a solo practitioner like I was, and you know that you are going to work out a plan to transition off of whatever types of cases you're handling now and into a totally new area, or you're going to add this area of practice to what you're already doing. Or maybe you're going to bring in another attorney if you're a solo practitioner or you're in a small firm. But the question you have to ask yourself there, of course, is, am I going to bring in somebody new who's not really experienced in this area and will have to basically build the practice? Or am I bringing in an attorney who has a book of business and it's going to be a good fit for the existing business? So you want to look at that very closely. No matter what situation you find yourself in, you have to remember that this is not going to happen overnight. It's going to take time to build up a practice, unless, as I said, you are bringing on a lawyer who is bringing with them a book of business, and you have a very high probability that the clients that that lawyer already has will agree to transfer over to your firm. But if that's not the case, remember, this is not going to happen overnight. I've had conversations with lawyers where they tell me they really are frustrated with the area of practice they're in. They really don't like it. They want to make a change, and they just want to get rid of all the cases they currently have and start working on a new area. That's a bad move. Unless you have a significant amount of savings, say 6 months or more worth of operating expenses that you can count on, that's a bad move, because as you're building up the new practice, of course, you need money flowing in to keep your current business up and kicking. So make sure that you're being realistic about your plan. I mean, it's typically going to take at least 6 months or longer to start to build up a new area of practice. I mean, we all know it doesn't happen overnight. So how do you make it happen? Well, like I said, first of all, do your research, make sure that the area you think you want to get into is really a good area for you and your existing business. Once you've done that, and you know that, say I transitioned over to disability law. Well, what's the next step? Well, I have to figure out how to get those clients. Now, I had already had experience handling some portions of disability cases, so I knew that portion of it. If you don't, let's step back a little bit. If it's a brand new area of practice and you're going to be handling the work, there's a learning curve. You've got to get educated. You've got to take CLEs, get a mentor, talk to other lawyers in that field, so that you can get an idea of what it's like to practice in that field, and so that you will be prepared to actually handle cases. So once you've done your education, then you have to find clients, right? And you do that just like you do in your current area of practice, or you should be doing. You need to do some market research. Who are the ideal clients that you want to go after? Where are they? Where do they hang out? Where do they hang out online? Where do they hang out offline? And how about referral sources? Are the referral sources that you have now going to be referral sources you can count on for this new area of practice, or do you need to develop a whole new set of referral sources? Now, if you're currently in practice, the good news is you've already got a built-in client base of your old clients and your current clients, who you can now announce to that you are adding a practice area, or that you are doing a different kind of law, so that they can then become a referral source for you, assuming that they're happy with your work you've done for them, and I'm sure they are. Well, they're a referral source for you for this new area of practice. So, make sure you don't forget them. A lot of times I find that lawyers do tend to forget their old clients. Don't do that. They can become a great referral source for you for either your current area of practice or any new area that you decide to get into. Now you want to think about, you've decided, okay, I know what the new practice area is, and I know who's going to do the work, and I've got a plan in place for marketing and to attract in new clients. That's great. What new processes do you need to put in place to handle this new type of work? Now, it could be that, the way you currently handle your caseload is going to be very similar to the way you would handle a new caseload in a new area of practice. It may be that your case management system that you use for whatever you're doing now is going to be perfectly fine for what you intend to do in the future. But make sure you know that before you jump into a new area of practice. And if you find that you need new processes, well, make sure you're working on that, because It could be that your intake process, for your other area of practice isn't going to work for this new area. Your onboarding process may or may not work. Okay. The templates, obviously, that you use are going to be different for different areas of practice. So these are things that you're going to have to think about and develop as you move along. I'm not suggesting you have to have it all in place 100% before you take your first client in a new area. You don't. But you have to be prepared to develop that as you go along, because you have to, of course, serve your new clients. And then you need to think about your team. Who's helping you now? Will you need additional help if you start a new area of practice? Or if it's a transition that you're looking at, can your current team be retrained to handle this new area of practice? Do they have the skills? If not, what can you do to help them develop those skills? What can you do to get them educated in this new area? They'll probably be very excited about it. I know my team was, because they really like to learn, and they knew a lot about what we had been doing on personal injury, but they were excited to get educated on an entirely new area of practice. So make sure you look at that, though, because you can't expect your team to suddenly, turn on a dime. And if they've been handling personal injury cases and auto accidents, and suddenly be able to handle, say, workers' comp, if you decide that that's complementary enough for your practice that you want to get into it, or disability, or any other area that you think is a good area for you to expand into. Just like you're not going to be able to turn on a dime, because you need some education to get up to speed on that area of practice. The same thing is true for your team. So make sure that you keep that in mind and have a plan as to how you're going to make that happen. Get them involved in it, and get them involved in the planning. They will be very helpful. My team was incredibly helpful as we made that transition, and they saw ways we could do things that were better and easier and more efficient. So those are just some tips that I can give you about adding a new practice area or transitioning to a totally different area, depending on what your choice is. It's very doable. It's very exciting when you do it, but make sure you have a good plan, because otherwise it will be chaos, and you don't want chaos. You want to make the addition of this new area as seamless as possible, so that it doesn't cause you a lot of stress, and it doesn't cause your team a lot of stress. So I hope you found that helpful. It's just a few tips that I can give you about new practice areas. And come back next week, and we are going to have, next week we will be having a guest. And I hope that you'll be able to join us. In the meantime, make sure that you're following me on Facebook and LinkedIn. I'm also on Instagram and YouTube. So I hope to see you on all of those other places too.